Hello, Leo. This is a deep, soul-stirring horoscope reading crafted just for you right here, right now. And I want to start by asking you one powerful question. What if the miracle you've been praying for is already falling from the sky and you were chosen to catch it? This is not just another horoscope. This is a cosmic invitation. And if you've landed on this video today, especially on June 6th, it's because the universe is speaking directly to your spirit. Nothing about this moment is random. Something much bigger is unfolding and you're in the center of it. You see, Leo, your life has never been about staying small. You were born to lead, to shine, to ignite the path for others. But lately, haven't you felt a little tired of carrying so much weight? Of being strong for everyone, while quietly wondering, when will it be my turn to receive? That question, that whisper inside you, is exactly what this message was created to answer. In today's reading, we're going to tap into some of the most powerful astrological alignments unfolding for you. We'll explore what's happening not just in the stars but in your soul. And we'll uncover why June 6th could be the moment everything begins to shift in your favor. This is your time, Leo. But not in the way you've been taught to believe. You don't have to fight for the spotlight anymore. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. The truth is, you've already been chosen. And now, all that's required is that you open your heart wide enough to receive what's already on its way. Through tarot, cosmic timing, and the quiet power of self-trust, you'll begin to understand that the real miracle isn't out there, it's already growing inside you. This message will guide you to see the signs, feel the shift, and most importantly recognize the sacred opportunity that's been knocking on your spirit's door for far too long. And let me say this from the heart. I want to take a moment to thank you deeply for being here. Every like, every comment, and every subscription you share helps grow this sacred space we call eternal mindfulness. Your energy fuels this channel and allows these transformational messages to reach more souls just like yours. So if something inside you is already awakening, if your chest feels a little warmer, or your eyes just softened as you heard these words, then stay. Because what the universe is about to reveal will not only answer your questions, it will give you something to finally believe in. Before we dive in, I'd love to know, what do you think brought you here today? What part of your soul is ready to receive? Share it in the comments, not just as a reflection, but as a declaration. Let the universe see you, hear you, and move through you. Now take a breath. And let's begin. There's something quietly powerful about the number 6, a kind of harmony that asks us to soften, to return to the heart, and to remember that love is not something we earn by doing more, but by simply being who we are with honesty. On June 6th, that energy surrounds you, Leo, like a calm pulse moving through your spirit. In numerology, 6 represents devotion, responsibility, and a higher form of service that transcends ego. It doesn't seek applause. It seeks balance. Not in the sense of keeping things neutral, but in the way a tree finds strength through both its roots and its reach toward the sky. When we look at today's astrological weather, something meaningful unfolds. The sun, your ruling planet, the very symbol of identity, vitality, and self-expression, is forming a harmonious trine with Jupiter, the planet of growth, wisdom, and expansion. This is not just about good luck. It's about recognition, not from the outside world, but from life itself. It's as if the universe is finally saying, you didn't give up. You kept showing up. And that matters. But what truly amplifies this moment isn't the brightness of the sun or the abundance of Jupiter Alanites, the fact that both energies are asking you to pause and reflect on where your strength really comes from. It's not in how much you've achieved, but in the quiet courage it took to keep going, even when no one saw your effort. That's what makes this alignment sacred. Because it honors your inner light, not just the image you project. The card drawn for you today, the Strength, often gets misunderstood. People think it represents control, grit, or brute force. But look closer. It's not about conquering the lion, it's about embracing it. It's the reminder that true strength is never loud or hard-edged. It's the ability to sit with your own vulnerability without shrinking from it. The strength to be soft. The strength to forgive. The strength to keep your heart open after it's been disappointed. That kind of strength can't be trained. It can only be chosen, moment by moment. This is where the wisdom of presence becomes your quiet teacher. The kind of presence that doesn't rush to fix or label, but simply sees what is clearly, kindly. Like water that doesn't force the stone to move but wears it smooth over time, your journey hasn't been about sudden victories. It's been about enduring faith. About staying loyal to your path, even when the results took longer than you hoped. That kind of patience shapes the soul in ways that few things can. And so today's energy brings you to a threshold not of doing, but of receiving. This is not a prize for being perfect. It is an acknowledgement that you have lived sincerely. That you've loved through resistance, believed without proof, and dared to grow even when it hurt. You don't need to fight anymore to justify your worth. What you've built in silence is enough. What you've given without being asked is enough. You exactly as you are enough. The fire in your eyes, Leo, is not the fire of struggle. It's the fire of endurance. The glow of someone who has walked through inner storms and still chooses to shine. Let this moment remind you, your light was never dependent on applause. It was born from your devotion, your loyalty, your refusal to let fear define your story. And now, the world is beginning to catch up to what your spirit has known all along. So take this day as a gentle unfolding. Let the expansion begin not with a loud breakthrough, but with a quiet truth. You've already done the hardest part. And now it's time to allow the blessings you've earned not by effort, but by essence to rise and meet you. There's a quiet power that emerges the moment you stop needing to prove your worth. That shift doesn't come with a grand announcement or applause, it comes like the first breeze after a long, stifling summer. You may not even notice it at first. It's subtle. But something softens in your chest. The tightness loosens. The weight begins to lift. For Leo, a sign born to shine, this lesson can feel like a paradox. You've spent so much of your life expressing, performing, leading. But today, the real brilliance begins not when you're seen, but when you choose to see yourself without the lens of expectation. What you've been told about success may have shaped your early path. Be bold, be exceptional, win the room, win their hearts. And to a degree, that's always been part of your magic. But real magic doesn't rely on recognition. It doesn't chase approval. It simply radiates from a place of calm assurance. Not because others say, "You're enough," but because there comes a moment when you whisper it to yourself and believe it. There's a teaching that suggests we suffer most not because we're lacking something, but because we believe we are. The constant reaching, the comparison, the need to be extraordinary, these are habits of the mind, not truths of the heart. They create a kind of friction in the soul, a quiet war between what you are and what you think you must become. And when that conflict dissolves, even for a moment, something beautiful begins to emerge. That's when the miracle arrives. Not as a reward, but as a natural response to alignment. The star card appearing for you today isn't just a symbol of hope. It's an invitation. It suggests that you're entering a time when healing happens, not because you've earned it but because you've finally stopped resisting it. You've laid down the armor. You've stepped away from the stage. And in that quiet moment, you begin to hear a different kind of applause, the one that rises from within. When you let go of trying to prove your worth, what remains is the raw truth of who you are. And here's the most surprising part, that version of you is often the one most ready to receive. The universe doesn't respond to desperation or performance. It responds to openness, to softness, to presence. It listens when you're no longer screaming, "Look at me," and instead whisper, "I'm here." This isn't about giving up ambition. It's about anchoring it in something deeper. When you create, strive, or give from a place of wholeness, not to fill a void or earn validation, you become magnetic in a way no performance can replicate. You attract not because you're louder, brighter, more perfect, but because you are real, steady. And realness has its own kind of gravity. So maybe today is the day you stop repeating the stories that were never yours to carry. The ones that say you're only lovable when you're extraordinary. The ones that whisper you have to try harder just to belong. Write one of those stories down. Speak it. And then release it. Not as an act of rebellion, but as a quiet rite of self-return. In doing so, you're not abandoning who you've been. You're reclaiming who you've always been beneath the striving. Because the moment you stop proving yourself is the moment life begins proving itself to you. And that, dear Leo, is when the real miracle unfolds. Sometimes healing doesn't look like a dramatic breakthrough or a sudden burst of clarity. Sometimes it looks like a quiet decision, a choice so subtle that no one else even notices it. And yet, that choice can shift the trajectory of an entire lineage. Leo, this chapter of your life isn't just about personal growth. It's about something deeper and far more impactful. You are not only healing for yourself, you are unwinding the patterns that generations before you never had the chance to resolve. Pluto's activation in your 4th house today is not a random astrological event. It's a mirror held up to your roots, your family, your history, and the emotional legacy passed down through both words and silences. This energy invites you to look back not with blame or bitterness, but with clarity. Because only by seeing clearly what has been inherited can you choose something new. The old wounds, abandonment, scarcity, unspoken grief may not have begun with you, but the opportunity to stop them does. The 6 of Cups is not just a tarot card about nostalgia. It's about return. Returning to the memories, the places, and the emotions we've tucked away, not to relive them, but to see them from where we now stand. As an adult. As someone who has the capacity to choose a new response. This card gently reminds you that even what once hurt can become sacred ground when it's viewed through eyes softened by compassion. There's an ancient teaching that says we inherit more than features or stories, we inherit unprocessed emotions. That the fear one ancestor couldn't speak of, or the love another never fully received, doesn't just disappear. It travels. Until someone, somewhere, is strong enough to feel it without becoming consumed by it. That someone is often the most sensitive, the most aware, the one who senses something is off even when life looks fine on the surface. And more often than not, that someone is you. You might be the first in your family to pause and say, "This stops with me." To love without condition. To communicate without rage. To be present without checking out. It sounds simple, but it is profoundly courageous. Because it means you are choosing not to repeat what was modeled for you. You are choosing peace in a family system that may not have known how to teach it. That is not small. That is not personal. That is powerful. And when you make that choice not once, but day after day, you become a bridge. You create a new pathway. Not just for yourself, but for those who came before and those who will come after. That's what legacy really is. It's not what you leave behind when you're gone, it's what you shift while you're here. And it often begins in moments that feel invisible, holding your breath a little longer instead of shouting, saying, "I forgive you," even when no one asks, reaching out with softness instead of silence. This is what it means to carry the light of Leo, not in spectacle, but in presence. Not in performance, but in quiet leadership. You are the fire keeper for your line. And right now, the flame you carry isn't just illuminating your path. It's warming the hands of those who came before you and lighting the way for those who are still to come. That is not a burden. It is an honor. One that only someone with your heart could bear. Not all miracles arrive with fireworks. Sometimes, they come as quiet openings, a conversation that flows when it usually stalls, a morning without the heaviness you've grown used to, or a subtle shift in how you treat yourself when no one's watching. And once that miracle appears, the real question becomes, how do you keep it alive? How do you nurture it without gripping too tightly, or letting it slip away? This part of your journey, Leo, is not about manifesting more, it's about tending to what has already arrived. You've called in beauty, alignment, perhaps even something long hoped for. Now, it's time to root it. Your fire, so often projected outward in radiant bursts of performance or leadership, is being redirected inward. This isn't a dimming. It's an anchoring. The Empress, the tarot card guiding this phase, doesn't rush. She doesn't perform. She grows. She trusts the process of gestation, creation, and ripening. Her power is not in force, but in presence. She reminds you that sustaining a gift requires patience, ritual, and care. Much like a garden that thrives under quiet, consistent attention, the abundance in your life right now needs rhythm, not reaction. It needs your grounded attention, not your theatrical display. This applies to every area of your life. Your health, for example, doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for consistency. A small walk in the morning sunlight isn't just a fitness act, it's a reset for your nervous system, a chance to align your internal rhythms with the light of the day. Cutting caffeine after mid-afternoon isn't about restriction. It's about restoring your ability to rest. These small practices don't make headlines, but over time, they build a resilient body, which in turn becomes the vessel through which joy and clarity can flow. In finances, the same principle applies. If your energy feels unclear or reactive, it's wise not to move money hastily. Sometimes the best investment is stillness, letting the waters settle before deciding. Generosity is a beautiful thing, but only when it comes from clarity, not guilt or obligation. When you're grounded in self-respect, your money choices start to reflect that too. They become extensions of your boundaries, not breaches of them. Love, often the place where Leo shines and struggles most, is asking you for directness. You don't need to perform affection or wait for a grand sign. Say what you mean. Send the message. Express the thought. Intimacy is built not through guessing games, but through sincere connection. When you speak from your center, you invite the other to meet you there. And if they don't, you've still chosen yourself in the process. Professionally, you may feel like something is pressurized or creatively stuck. That's not a sign to abandon it. It's an invitation to revisit the ideas you once shelved. The ones that felt too risky or too bold. Write them down. Give them form. Often what feels like a block is really a transit ion, a shedding of the way things used to be so something more aligned can take shape. What links all of these threads together is a deeper truth: sustainability. Your job now is not to attract more, but to hold what you have with care and respect. Not to guard it with fear, but to engage with it fully. There's a quiet discipline in this stage one that asks you to stop rushing toward the next thing and instead ask, what wants to grow right here, in this moment, through me? That question is where your power lives now, not in the flame that dazzles, but in the warmth that sustains. The Empress knows this. And today, so do you. Sometimes what signals a real shift isn't loud or visible. It's not a sudden breakthrough or a lightning bolt of clarity. It's a softening. A feeling of stillness settling inside you like fresh air filling a quiet room. Maybe you've noticed it lately. You wake up with a little more steadiness in your chest. The edge of anxiety, once so familiar, has dulled. Or your mind feels less tangled, like something has begun to release even if nothing around you has changed. That feeling isn't random. It's a sign that alignment has already begun. When your internal world starts to stabilize, your outer world follows. This isn't wishful thinking, it's how energy flows. The current astrological movement highlights a key activation between the 12th and 2nd houses, between what you hold deep in your subconscious and what you possess in your material life. And this connection is asking you to notice something subtle but essential. Peace isn't something you chase. It's something you allow. And when you allow it, you create the right conditions for what you desire to take form. The 2nd house rules your resources, your money, your values, your sense of security. But security doesn't begin with numbers in a bank account. It begins with a nervous system that feels safe, a body that knows how to exhale, a mind that isn't constantly bracing for the worst. That's the internal foundation that sustains real abundance. And that's the part you've been quietly building, perhaps without even realizing it. At the same time, the 12th house is the domain of hidden processes, dreams, and quiet awakenings. It governs not what you control, but what you surrender to. It teaches the art of letting go, of efforting, of overthinking, of chasing. Not because ambition is wrong, but because something deeper needs space to emerge. When both these houses speak to one another, as they are now, your system receives an invitation to stop searching for proof and start trusting your own felt experience. The Hermit card reinforces this truth. He walks with only a lantern in the dark. He doesn't demand answers. He listens. He feels. He observes. That's the energy present for you now, not urgency, but awareness. You don't need to see a miracle today. You don't need a perfect confirmation. All you need is to notice the softening. That gentle, curious warmth you feel in your chest that might be the very beginning of something extraordinary. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's real. There is a quiet kind of transformation that begins when you no longer need to be convinced. When you no longer argue with your own clarity. That strange, unfamiliar sense of calm you've been feeling? It's not detachment. It's not apathy. It's the absence of fear. And in the space fear once lived, something far more valuable is beginning to take root. This is how blessings arrive. Not always wrapped in certainty, but through a shift in how you relate to yourself. The peaceful moment you don't question. The small choice you make without hesitation. The breath that deepens on its own. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. They are invitations to move slower, trust deeper, and carry less. So today, let that quiet inner stillness be enough. Let it be the sign you were hoping for. Write it down if it helps. Not as a wish, but as an acknowledgement. I am grateful for this first wave of peace. I know something beautiful is on its way. Because sometimes the clearest path to what you've been waiting for is the moment you finally stop waiting. If you're still here with me, if your heart stayed present through every word, every pause, then perhaps you've already felt it, the shift. That subtle, beautiful awakening that says you're no longer just searching for light, you are the light. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you believe it too. Throughout this journey, we've touched on many things: astrological alignments, emotional habits, energetic inheritance, and personal truth. But beneath it all, there's one consistent thread. You don't need to become someone else in order to receive what's already meant for you. You just have to return to who you are when the noise falls away. That version of you, the real one, is already enough. Already worthy. Already chosen. And yet, the beauty of this moment isn't only in what you're receiving. It's in what you'll do with it. Because every blessing carries within it a quiet question. Will you hold this light only for yourself? Or will you offer it forward, even gently, to someone still walking in the dark? Leo, your flame isn't just here to warm you. It was always meant to ignite something in others. That doesn't mean you have to be loud. It means you have to be present. To live your life with integrity. To speak when others are silent. To choose kindness when it would be easier not to. And most importantly, to recognize that your healing doesn't end with you, it expands through you. So take a moment now to reflect. What resonated most for you today? What part of this message made your breath catch or your eyes soften? And more importantly, what will you do with that? Will you sit with it? Will you write it down? Will you speak it aloud to someone who needs to hear it? Sometimes all it takes is one decision. One vow made in quiet conviction. And if you feel moved, I invite you to share it in the comments below, not for attention, but as an energetic act of commitment. Let it be your way of telling the universe, I heard you. I'm ready. You can write something like, I will hold this flame with gratitude. I will use my blessings to bring light to others. Or whatever affirmation feels true for you. There's power in giving your promise a voice. And there's something sacred about being witnessed. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for being here. For every like, every comment, every moment of your energy shared with eternal mindfulness, know that your presence is not only felt, but deeply honored. This space only exists because souls like you continue to show up, open-hearted and willing to grow. And please remember this, no matter where you are on your path, you are never walking alone. The light is with you, not somewhere out there, but within. It may flicker, it may dim, but it never goes out. All it's waiting for is your permission to rise. If something stirred inside you today, I hope you'll stay connected. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and continue showing up for your own unfolding. And when you're ready, come back. Because every time you return to yourself, you return to the flame. And that flame, your flame, was always meant to guide more than just you. It was meant to light the way home for others, too.